Jose discovered his girlfriend wanted to open their relationship to polyamory so she could date her ex. He was shocked to find it was just a lie for her to cheat. Feeling betrayed, Jose accidentally met her half-sister, who understood her sister's true nature. An unexpected relationship developed, leading to consequences no one anticipated. Where are you watching from? Hit like and subscribe if you've ever been betrayed in love. I am Jose Ramirez, a 29-year-old software engineer living in Seattle. Born and raised in Arizona to Mexican-American parents, I moved to the Pacific Northwest 5 years ago for better career opportunities in the tech industry. I have always considered myself a straightforward guy who values honesty and loyalty above all else. That is until my world turned upside down when my girlfriend decided to rewrite the rules of our relationship. I first met Amanda during a tech conference downtown. She was presenting a panel on user experience design, and I was immediately drawn to her confidence and intelligence. With wavy brown hair that perfectly framed her face and piercing blue eyes that seemed to look right through you, she commanded attention without even trying. After her presentation, I gathered the courage to approach her at the networking event. Our conversation flowed effortlessly as we discussed everything from the latest software developments to our shared love for obscure indie films. Amanda had this way of making complex topics accessible, breaking them down with clever analogies and witty observations. By the end of the night, I had her number and a promise for coffee the following weekend. The relationship progressed quickly. Our coffee date turned into dinner, which turned into weekend getaways to the Washington coast. We seemed perfectly in sync, finishing each other's sentences and sharing the same worldview on almost everything. 3 months into dating, when my lease was up for renewal, Amanda suggested we move in together. It seemed fast, but also right. So she moved into my downtown apartment, bringing her collection of art books and vintage record player that soon made the place feel like ours. Looking back, the first signs of trouble appeared about 4 months into living together. Amanda began receiving texts at odd hours, which she would quickly dismiss as work colleagues or old friends. When I would ask about them casually, she would provide vague answers before changing the subject. She started coming home later than usual, sometimes without texting to let me know. The changes were subtle at first, easy to dismiss as the normal evolution of a relationship moving past its honeymoon phase. Then Amanda developed a sudden interest in relationship philosophy. She started ordering books with titles like Beyond Monogamy and Ethical Non-Monogamy. I noticed these new additions to our bookshelf, but did not think too much of it initially. Amanda had always been intellectually curious, constantly exploring new ideas and perspectives. I assumed this was just another one of her deep dives into a topic that had caught her attention. As the weeks passed, she would occasionally drop comments about how monogamy was a social construct or how humans were not naturally meant to be with just one partner. Each time I would feel a knot form in my stomach, but I tried to engage with these ideas openly. I wanted to be supportive of her intellectual exploration, even if these particular thoughts made me uncomfortable. I have always believed in personal growth and understanding different perspectives, so I tried to listen with an open mind, but deep down I knew I was a one-woman kind of guy. The idea of sharing Amanda with someone else, or dividing my affection between multiple partners, simply did not align with who I was. Still, I did not want to shut down her thinking process or make her feel judged for exploring these concepts. Then came the night that would change everything. Amanda sat me down on our gray sectional couch, the one we had spent an entire Saturday picking out together, and said we needed to have a serious talk. She looked nervous, twisting her silver bracelet around her wrist, the way she always did when something was weighing on her mind. With a deep breath, she declared that she had come to an important realization about herself. She was polyamorous. She explained this meant she was capable of loving multiple people simultaneously and wanted to explore relationships with others while still maintaining ours. The way she presented it made it sound like she was sharing a fundamental truth about her identity, as unchangeable as her eye color or height. Amanda elaborated that this was her natural state of being, and that expecting her to remain monogamous was constraining her authentic self. She talked about how embracing polyamory would take our relationship to a new level of honesty and openness. All the while I sat there feeling like the ground beneath me was crumbling. The future I had envisioned with her was being rewritten before my eyes without my input or consent. Despite my discomfort, I promised to learn more before making any judgments. That night, while Amanda slept soundly beside me, I stayed up researching polyamory, trying to understand if this was something I could accept. I read articles, forums, and personal accounts of polyamorous relationships. Some people seemed genuinely happy with this arrangement, but every fiber of my being told me this was not what I wanted. In the following days, tensions in our relationship escalated. Amanda insisted I was being close-minded for not embracing her newfound identity. I felt like I was being forced to change my core values to accommodate hers. Conversations that once flowed easily now felt like navigating a minefield. The apartment that had felt like our sanctuary now seemed charged with an uncomfortable energy that neither of us knew how to dispel. A month after Amanda's polyamory revelation, I accidentally discovered something that shattered any remaining trust between us. While using her tablet to order takeout because my phone was dead, a text message notification appeared at the top of the screen. Normally, I would never invade her privacy, but the preview showed a name I had heard Amanda mention before: Brian, her ex-boyfriend from college. The message read, "Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow night. Last time was amazing. Still can't believe we've been doing this for 2 months." My heart pounded in my chest as I realized the implications. 2 months. This had been going on since before her polyamory announcement. With trembling fingers, I opened the message thread, knowing I was crossing a boundary but feeling entitled to the truth. What I found confirmed my worst suspicions. There were dozens of explicit messages between them, coordinating meetups at his apartment across town. Amanda had told me she was working late or meeting friends on those nights. Even worse, in one exchange, Brian had asked if I knew about their relationship. Amanda had replied, "Working on it. Told him I'm polyamorous so we can keep seeing each other without sneaking around as much. He's not thrilled, but hopefully he'll come around." The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Amanda had not discovered a new identity. She had manufactured a convenient excuse to cheat with her ex-boyfriend. The polyamory talk had never been about authenticity or personal growth. It had been a calculated move to continue her affair while keeping me as a backup option. I spent the next day gathering more evidence, checking credit card statements that showed dinners at restaurants on nights. She claimed to be working late location data that placed her at an address I now knew to be Brian's, an apartment. With each new piece of information, my hurt transformed into anger. When Amanda came home that evening, I confronted her with what I had found. Her reaction was not remorse, but indignation. She accused me of violating her privacy and missing the point of polyamory entirely. According to her, I was displaying my lack of understanding about modern love and relationships. She twisted my words and redirected the conversation to focus on my snooping rather than her deception. As she continued to deny and deflect, I realized how masterfully she had been manipulating me all along. I had been trying so hard to be understanding and supportive that I had ignored the obvious red flags. The argument escalated until we were both shouting, saying things we could never take back. Finally, Amanda grabbed her purse and stormed out, declaring she needed space to think about whether our relationship could survive my trust issues. The irony of her statement was not lost on me, but at that moment, I was too emotionally drained to point it out. For 3 days, Amanda stayed at a friend's place, occasionally texting to say she was still processing everything and needed more time. I spent those days in a fog, questioning everything about our relationship and my own judgment. On the 4th night, unable to bear the silence of our apartment any longer, I went to a bar downtown that I had never visited before. I was not looking to meet anyone or even to drink heavily. I just needed a change of scenery and the background noise of strangers to drown out my thoughts. I was nursing my second bourbon when a woman sat down 2 stools away from me. She had long dark hair and warm brown eyes that crinkled at the corners when she smiled at the bartender. Something about her seemed vaguely familiar, though I was certain we had never met. After ordering her drink a gin and tonic, she caught me looking and smiled politely. Maybe it was the alcohol lowering my usual social barriers, or maybe it was just the need to talk to someone who knew nothing about my situation, but I found myself striking up a conversation with her. Her name was Natalia, and she worked as an elementary school art teacher. Our conversation flowed naturally as we discovered shared interests in photography, hiking, and obscure board games. As the evening progressed, I found myself opening up about my recent relationship troubles. I did not share all the details, just that my girlfriend and I were going through a rough patch because of differing views on monogamy. Natalia listened attentively, offering thoughtful insights without judgment. There was something refreshing about her straightforward approach to the topic. Then came the moment that changed everything. As Natalia was telling me about her family, she mentioned growing up in Portland before moving to Seattle 3 years ago. Something clicked in my mind, and I asked her last name. When she said Logan, I felt the blood drain from my face. Amanda's last name was Logan, too. Through careful questions, we pieced together an unbelievable coincidence. Natalia was Amanda's half-sister from her father's second marriage. The two women had grown up mostly separate due to their mother's strained relationship and had minimal contact as adults. The resemblance I had noticed was the same smile and eye shape they had inherited from their father. When I revealed that I was dating her half-sister, Amanda Natalia's expression shifted from shock to something more complex. She hesitated before speaking clearly, weighing whether to share what was on her mind. Finally, she admitted that Amanda had a history of infidelity that had caused problems in previous relationships. According to Natalia, this pattern had been present since Amanda's teenage years, when she would often date multiple boys from different schools. Natalia explained that their family had tried to help Amanda work through what seemed to be deep-seated issues with commitment and honesty, but Amanda always deflected responsibility, blaming her partners for being too controlling or her parents for not understanding her. After multiple failed attempts at family therapy, they had reached an uneasy truce where they maintained limited contact and avoided discussing Amanda's personal life. As we continued talking, Natalia and I discovered we had more in common than just our connection to Amanda. We both loved the same obscure science fiction author, preferred mountains to beaches, and had the same dry sense of humor. The conversation shifted from Amanda to our own interests and experiences, and for the first time in weeks I found myself genuinely laughing. When the bar announced last call, we realized we had been talking for hours. As we prepared to leave, Natalia hesitated before asking for my phone number. She suggested that maybe we could be friends, as we seemed to get along so well. There was no flirtation in her request, just a genuine interest in continuing our conversation. I agreed, and we exchanged numbers with the promise to stay in touch. Over the next 2 weeks, Natalia and I texted regularly, sharing book recommendations, funny stories from our days, and occasionally deeper thoughts about life and relationships. Our conversations never centered on Amanda, though she was the unspoken connection between us. Instead, we discovered a natural rapport that made each interaction feel easy and genuine. We learned that we both loved the same obscure band that never made it big, shared a passion for spicy food that none of our friends could tolerate, and had both dreamed of visiting Japan to see the cherry blossoms. With each new discovery, I found myself looking forward to our exchanges more and more. Meanwhile, Amanda had returned to our apartment with a half-hearted apology and a suggestion that we start fresh. She admitted that perhaps she should have been more transparent about dating Brian, but maintained that her polyamorous identity was real and that I needed to accept it if our relationship was to continue. She presented the situation as a compromise. She would be more honest about who she was seeing, and I would work on being more open-minded. I listened to her proposal without interrupting, but in my heart I knew our relationship was beyond repair. The trust was gone, replaced by a clarity I had never experienced before. Still, finding a new place in Seattle's competitive housing market would take time, so I agreed to a tense cohabitation while I searched for another apartment. During this awkward in-between period, Natalia and I met for coffee, then for a hike along the nearby mountain trails, and finally for dinner at a small Ethiopian restaurant she had discovered. Each time we were careful to frame our meetings as friendly hangouts, but there was an undeniable connection growing between us that went beyond friendship. Natalia was everything. Amanda was not straightforward, genuinely interested in my thoughts and feelings and respectful of boundaries. Where Amanda would dominate conversations with her opinions, Natalia listened as much as she spoke. Where Amanda would manipulate situations to get her way, Natalia was upfront about her wants and needs. The contrast was startling and illuminating. About a month after our first meeting, Natalia and I were walking back to her apartment after seeing a documentary at a local film festival. The evening had a crisp autumn feel, with leaves crunching beneath our feet and our breath visible in the cool air. We had been discussing the film, debating its merits and flaws with the comfortable back and forth that had become characteristic of our interactions. As we reached her doorstep, there was a moment of silence between us, filled with unspoken questions. Finally, Natalia addressed the elephant in the room. She admitted that she had feelings for me, but was conflicted because of my history with her sister. I confessed that I felt the same way, but had been hesitant to act on those feelings for the same reason. After a long conversation about the implications and potential complications, we decided to give our relationship a chance. We agreed to take things slowly and be mindful of the unusual circumstances, but we also acknowledged that the connection between us was too genuine to ignore. That night, our first kiss on her doorstep felt like the beginning of something honest and real. As our relationship developed, we were careful to keep it private, not out of shame, but out of respect for the complex family dynamics at play. We wanted to establish a solid foundation before introducing the additional complication of Amanda's reaction. However, in the age of social media, privacy is often an illusion. 2 weeks into our relationship, Natalia posted a photo of us at a local jazz festival. The picture was innocent enough, the two of us smiling with the stage lights illuminating our faces. She had not tagged me, but someone who knew both Amanda and Natalia saw the post and mentioned it to Amanda. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Amanda called me while I was at work, her voice so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. She accused me of deliberately dating her sister to hurt her, of betraying her trust, and of manipulating Natalia to get revenge. The irony of her accusations about betrayal and trust was not lost on me, but I remained calm, explaining that my relationship with Natalia had developed naturally and had nothing to do with seeking revenge. Amanda refused to believe me. She hung up and proceeded to call mutual friends, family members, and even colleagues, spinning a narrative where I was the villain who had plotted to date her sister as an act of spite. Social media became a battleground as Amanda posted vague but clearly targeted updates about betrayal and toxic men. The situation escalated further when I received an unexpected call from Brian, Amanda's ex-boyfriend, and the man she had been seeing behind my back. Apparently, Amanda's narrative had shifted again, and she was now telling Brian that I had been controlling and emotionally abusive, forcing her to seek comfort elsewhere. Brian, who had his own complicated history with Amanda, wanted to warn me that she was spreading different versions of events to different people. Most surprisingly, he revealed that Amanda had been seeing not just him but at least 2 other men during our relationship. What she had presented to me as polyamory was actually a web of deception that extended far beyond what I had discovered. Brian had only recently learned about the others himself and had ended things with Amanda when he realized the extent of her dishonesty. As Amanda's campaign against us gained momentum, Natalia and I found ourselves facing judgment from people who had only heard Amanda's version of events. Some friends took sides without seeking our perspective, and family gatherings became tense affairs with relatives unsure how to navigate the uncomfortable dynamics. Through it all, Natalia stood firm. Having grown up with Amanda, she was familiar with her sister's tactics and was not easily swayed by emotional manipulation. Her steadiness became my anchor as we weathered the storm of drama that Amanda had created. The situation reached its peak when Amanda orchestrated what she called a family intervention at her parents' house. She had convinced her father and stepmother that Natalia and I were engaging in a relationship designed to hurt her and tear apart the family. When we arrived expecting a normal family dinner as we had been told, we found Amanda, her parents, and even a couple of family friends waiting with somber expressions. Amanda launched into a tearful monologue about feeling betrayed by the 2 people who should have cared about her most. She painted herself as the victim of a cruel plot, conveniently leaving out her own infidelity and deception. The tension in the room was palpable, with her parents looking between us with confusion and disappointment. When Amanda finally paused for breath, the room fell silent, all eyes on Natalia and me, waiting for our defense. It was the moment of truth, the climax of a drama that had been building for months. What happened next would determine not just our relationship, but the narrative that would shape family dynamics for years to come. After weeks of enduring Amanda's escalating drama, I felt emotionally exhausted. The constant barrage of accusations, the manipulation of friends and family, and the public shaming had taken their toll. But sitting there in her parents' living room, facing the staged intervention, something shifted inside me. I was done being reactive. It was time to take control of the narrative with maturity and honesty. I looked around the room at the concerned faces of Amanda's family members and realized they had only heard one side of the story. Calmly, I asked if they would be willing to hear our perspective before making judgments. To my relief, Amanda's father nodded, always having been the more reasonable parent. Over the previous weeks, I had compiled evidence of Amanda's deception, text message, screenshots, credit card statements showing dinners with Brian on nights she claimed to be working, and even emails where she discussed her multiple relationships with friends. I had never intended to use these as weapons, but rather as protection against further gaslighting. I presented these facts without anger or accusation, simply stating what had occurred chronologically. I explained how Amanda had claimed to be polyamorous only after I had begun to question her suspicious behavior, how she had manipulated the situation to continue seeing Brian while keeping me as a safety net, and how her story had changed, depending on who she was talking to. Throughout my explanation, I maintained a tone of sadness rather than vindictiveness. This was not about punishing Amanda, but about establishing the truth. When I finished speaking, Natalia added her own perspective, sharing patterns she had observed in her sister's behavior over years, and her genuine feelings for me that had developed unexpectedly but honestly. The mood in the room shifted as Amanda's parents processed this new information. They had known about some of Amanda's past relationship issues, but had not realized the extent of the manipulation in this situation. Amanda, seeing the changing expressions, attempted to redirect the conversation by accusing us of ganging up on her, but her tactics had lost their power in the face of clear evidence. The turning point came when Amanda's father, a man of few words but strong principles, looked directly at his daughter and asked one simple question: was any of this true? The directness of his gaze and the weight of his disappointment seemed to break through Amanda's defenses. For the first time since this ordeal began, she fell silent. Her usual stream of justifications momentarily dried up. In that silence, something shifted. Amanda's shoulders slumped, and when she finally spoke, her voice lacked its usual confident manipulation. She admitted that yes, she had been seeing Brian before talking to me about polyamory. Yes, she had used the concept as a way to justify her actions rather than as a genuine identity. And yes, she had exaggerated certain aspects of the situation when telling her family about Natalia and me. It was not a full confession or a complete acceptance of responsibility, but it was a crack in the facade, a first step toward honesty. Her parents exchanged glances, years of experience with their daughter, allowing them to recognize the significance of even this partial admission. In the weeks that followed, Amanda gradually stopped her campaign against us. Perhaps she recognized that continuing would only further damage her relationships with family members who now knew the truth, or perhaps she simply found new drama to occupy her attention. Either way, the intensity of the situation diminished, allowing Natalia and me to focus on our relationship rather than defending it. This experience taught me invaluable lessons about self-worth and boundaries. I had stayed in a relationship with Amanda far longer than I should have, because I doubted my own perceptions and prioritized her needs above my own. I had ignored red flags because I was committed to making things work, even at the expense of my happiness and dignity. With Natalia, I found a relationship built on mutual respect and honesty. We communicated openly about our needs and expectations, understanding that healthy boundaries strengthen rather than threaten a relationship. The contrast between my relationship with Amanda and my relationship with Natalia highlighted just how much I had compromised my values in an attempt to accommodate someone who had never truly valued me. 6 months after the family confrontation, Natalia and I decided to move to Portland. The change of scenery offered us the chance to build our relationship away from the lingering drama and complicated family dynamics in Seattle. We found an apartment in a vibrant neighborhood with a view of Mount Hood on clear days and quickly established a new routine together. Our relationship with Amanda evolved into a distant but civil connection. We would see her at occasional family gatherings, exchange brief pleasantries, and then continue with our separate lives. The tension never completely disappeared, but it faded to a manageable level as everyone involved chose to move forward rather than dwell on past conflicts. The most surprising development came when Amanda reached out to both of us individually to apologize. Her message was not elaborate or particularly emotional, but it acknowledged her role in creating unnecessary drama and expressed a hope that we could all find peace with the situation. Whether this apology stemmed from genuine growth or simply a desire to improve her image with family members remained uncertain, but we accepted it at face value and appreciated the gesture. As for Natalia and me, our relationship continued to flourish in our new environment. Free from the shadow of the past, we discovered new facets of each other and deepened our connection. After a year together, I proposed during a weekend trip to the Oregon coast, and Natalia accepted with tears of joy and a certainty that matched my own. Looking back on the tumultuous journey that brought us together, I cannot help but see the wisdom in the old saying about doors closing and windows opening. The painful end of my relationship with Amanda created the opportunity for me to meet someone who truly aligned with my values and vision for the future. Sometimes life's most significant betrayals lead us exactly where we need to be. Today I know that I would never have found this level of happiness and fulfillment if Amanda had not revealed her true character. As painful as that revelation was at the time, it freed me from a relationship built on lies and manipulation. It taught me to value honesty above convenience and to trust my instincts when something feels wrong. Perhaps the most important lesson I learned is that we should never allow others to define our worth or dictate the terms of our happiness. When someone shows you who they truly are through their actions, believe them the first time, and never remain in a relationship where respect and honesty are not foundational principles. Now engaged in planning our future together, Natalia and I are committed to building a life based on mutual trust, respect, and authenticity. We still face challenges, as all couples do, but we approach them as a team, knowing that our foundation is solid. Maybe in life we sometimes need to be pushed off our familiar path to find the one we truly belong on. The detour may be painful and disorienting, but it can lead to a destination far better than we ever imagined. Have you ever experienced a betrayal that ultimately led to something positive in your life? Share your story in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that sometimes the worst endings lead to the best beginnings. Thank you for listening, and remember, trust your instincts. They are usually right.